From Arrow Video on 4K UHD comes the sequel to the semi-recent Evil Dead remake, Evil Dead Rise. The remake was not called Evil Dead Rise. The sequel that I'm talking about here from 2023, directed by Lee Cronin, is Evil Dead Rise. This is a film I saw in the theater and did not really care for, but I have to say up front, watching it again, I'm more or less okay with it. This stars Alyssa, Sutherland, Lily Sullivan, Gabrielle, Echols, Morgan Davies, and Nell Fisher, who you may know as being Holly on recent seasons of Stranger Things. Most of them Americans. This was shot in New Zealand because that's where Rob Tappert's production company is based, where he did Hercules and Xena and all that long ago. Produced to some degree by the original team behind Evil Dead, and it's interesting. I'm going to talk all about it. This disc is loaded. Now, it's weird to me that Arrow is putting something out that's a movie that, as I received the disc, as it gets released, a movie that's only 3 years old. Like, Arrow really started off by putting out much older, much more deep cut stuff. And they are, as I like to joke, working in a movie theater, I know how this goes. Apparently they became interested in staying in business, so they're starting to release a lot more mainstream things from big studios. But it is really weird to me for them to be releasing something that it's not that old, and the previous edition is not that hard to find. But they really do a great job with these. This is the first 4K UHD release, and this does have a whole lot of new extras on it that really, really dive into the making and genesis of this film. I will say that the menu shows highlights from the film. Excuse me, I get choked up and gaseous when I talk about highlights from the film. That was always a beef with me back to the DVD days, where I'm not going to even say it because I believe in spoil. If you've never seen a movie, it shouldn't be spoiled by me, even if it's a 60-year-old film. The Planet of the Apes DVD has the menu gives away the end of the movie, and I'm like, couldn't have picked a different picture. The Evil Dead Rise, it's like highlights from the film. So if you've never watched the movie, hit play real fast, or else you're going to see moments in the film that really should kind of be more impactful in the context of what's going on. So, presented in English Dolby Atmos, which I can't use. I just use the TV speakers. Sorry. English 5.1 and English Audio Description 5.1, which I've never seen on an Arrow disc before. English Audio Description is SAP, they call it for TV, separate audio program. This is something that I accidentally discovered once on TV, which is basically somebody narrating everything you would see in a film for people who are visually impaired. So it could be something like, a man looks at a shop window. He notices a doll. The doll is smiling, that kind of thing. So that's really cool that this also has, I'm just about to say, English SDH subtitles for the deaf and hard of hearing, which is subtitles that basically include the sounds that aren't dialogue being described. So it is cool. Doesn't bother me a bit. Doesn't take away from it doesn't get in the way. It's not distracting. The only beef I have is when you're watching a film that's not in English. Maybe it's got an English dub, but you want to watch it in its original language, and the only option is subtitles that have the SDH. I find it incredibly distracting because a lot of times the subtitles of the SDH will come up just before you hear a sound. And if you're somebody who is not hearing impaired, it's a huge distraction. But I'm very glad that the Arrow is doing this and putting this on there, and I hope they continue going forward to put this on all their releases for the people it benefits. So it's 4K UHD, so it looks great. Then again, it's a movie that was shot very recently, so it's not like they had to do an insane amount of work to pull color back out of the negative because it's a movie that was shot like 3 or 4 years ago. But if you're wondering, I don't always get into how good the 4K looks. Honestly, I've got a huge TV. It's a 4K TV, not bragging, just describing. And I don't really see a huge difference between 4K and Blu-ray for the most part. I put in a Blu-ray, it looks great. I put in a 4K, it looks great. So I'm pretty much always going to tell you up front, yeah, it's a 4K, looks great. This was shot in New Zealand. Most of the leads were Australian or British. And it does this thing that I hate about modern filmmaking, which is it puts a really exciting scene up front, and then it cuts to black, and a title says 2 weeks earlier, or 2 days, or 2 hours, or 22 hours, or whatever. It's totally hacky. It totally does not have faith that the audience has the patience to watch a film to get to the point where that scene happens, to get to something exciting. It's this lame notion that you have to grab them by the coat and shake them and say, we swear to God, this movie's going to get interesting. now here's character development until it gets interesting. I really wish they wouldn't do that. The scene that it does put up front really grabs you by the lapels and tells you this is what somebody getting possessed by the Evil Dead is like in this film. It's very well shot. Characters are pretty annoying, but it has some cool moments. You know, it feels like, well, this really exists to get that really cool visual there, and a really neat way to have that opening title come up. The basic story, not going to tell you the whole story, the basic story is about a family in a very dilapidated, looks like one of the three mothers should be living in the top floor. Huge apartment building, supposed to be America, but everybody's accents, bless them, their faux American accents for the most part give them away that this ain't America. It's a big old dilapidated apartment building that has been condemned and is slated to be torn down in a very short amount of time, and a few residents remain who haven't found a place to live yet, but they all know that they need to get out of there. And there is a single mother tattoo artist and her three kids. One is a precocious little girl who is a little skittish. She's portrayed by the girl from Stranger Things. One is a feisty lass, and one is her son is a DJ, wants to be a DJ with the turntables and the headphone and the mixing and all that. And their rock and roll guitar tech sister comes back from the road to stay with them a little bit, and this off-kilter family dynamic is trying to work things out, work their past out, come to terms, support each other and all that. Not going to tell you the whole story. Kids go out for pizza at one point. Henrietta's Pizza, I think it says on the box. And there's a little bit of an earthquake. Hole opens up in the floor. Oh, look, it's an old abandoned bank vault. I'm going to go down in that hole. Which sounds like it's from a film that would be from behind the squeaky doors in a video store. And the DJ kid goes down, finds an open box, and there's records in it. And the DJ is all about the records. The kids love the vinyls these days. And to very much shorten this, plays the record, and oh no, this is this film's version of the tape from the original Evil Dead and Kandarian demons. Oh, and it also finds a Book of the Dead. One thing that I appreciated about this, seeing it the second time, I didn't realize. This sets up in the recording. Now, yeah, it's a record. The thing about it is, how else are you going to convey that in the modern day? In the original film, it was a reel-to-reel tape deck. Well, nobody has those anymore. If you said, okay, let's go with an audio cassette deck, that's a stretch that somebody would have one of those now. It is much more possible that somebody in a household these days, especially a hip youth, might have a turntable. So there are a series of 78s. And contained within those 78s is a recording by some controversial priest long ago somewhere who was basically talking about there are these 3 books because everything needs to be a trilogy. There are 3. I can't take any movie seriously unless I know there are 2 others that are connected to it. There are 3 books, and see, but I appreciated the 3 books thing because this isn't like each of these films exists in a vacuum. They're saying that last Evil Dead film that got made, not connected directly to this one, but it was one of those 3 books. So the guy talks about the 3 books and then starts reciting the words that you're not supposed to recite, and then kind of literally all hell breaks loose. So that's where we get what we get. We get possession, demons, Evil Dead in an apartment building. Now, if you've seen a little Umberto Bava film or two called Demons, really closer to Demons 2, this feels a lot like Demons 2. It's people turning into gross things, trying to savagely kill each other in a giant old apartment building. It's really well made. I'm going to say that. When I saw this originally, my whole thing is I don't like remakes. I don't like to say the word reboot because I think it's one of the most lame things that's come along in a long time. And all they do is lift the good parts from the originals, and when they do that, it just makes me think, oh yeah, that other movie, that original that I would rather be watching right now. This film does do that. This film lifts dialogue and a lot of the memorable lines from the original Evil Dead films. It names people after characters from the original films or people who were related to the original films. It has little in-jokes here and there. It has all that, but it's really well made. I'm going to give it that. The performances are really good, especially the main possessed mother is really disturbing with the practical makeup. It's mostly practical effects, which is really appreciated. It's a lot of blood, which is what you expect in an Evil Dead movie. But it does nod so much to the others. Of course, there's a chainsaw. It does nod enough to the others that it always yanks me out of it when that happens. Now, watching the extras on this, it's very clear that pretty much everybody involved with making Evil Dead Rise really loved the Evil Dead movies and was thrilled to be working on one of these. And they actually worked sound effects from the original film. Sound effects that were recorded for Evil Dead are in this film. So it was done with love. I just wish they didn't do those references because it just makes me think of another, sad to say, better movie. Not necessarily better made, but a better movie. And it lifts from, as I said, Evil Dead 2, Demons 2, The Shining. Like, there's a lot of nods, and every time I see a nod, I'm just like, that's cute, but I've seen that movie. What do you have that I'm going to remember? It seems like everybody involved was really cool. As I say, I'll get to the extras. There's a lot of extras on this. It's well shot. It did work better for me the second time. It's extremely gooey and gory, and it looks really good. So if you've got a good TV and a nice sound setup, this is going to play really well for you. Special features. There's a bunch of new interviews. They were done, interestingly, they were conducted, recorded, edited by J.R. Bookwalter, who did The Dead Next Door and a lot of like straight-to-video indie horror films. They all look like they were done via Zoom, which is, I guess, how you do it when you're talking to people on the other side of the world. There is a commentary by Lee Cronin, Lily Sullivan, and Alyssa Sutherland. It is kind of a typical, not long after the film was made, coworkers or friends hanging out, ragging on each other, laughing a lot about themselves, and joking. I find that less interesting. In general, I find commentaries a lot less interesting when they're done very close to the film's release because people don't have perspective. They're kind of relieved that thing is over, and it's a lot of, oh, it's Joey. When there's distance after a film was released, they can sort of look back at it. They can be more honest too. They're not trying to promote the film at that point. They can talk about what worked, what didn't work, what they wish they could have done, what they wanted to do but didn't, experiences, how their lives have been impacted by the film, all kinds of stuff like that. So this is one of those that was recorded, I believe, for the original video release, which would have been done probably either. They usually tend to do them after the film is completed, like when in that limbo between production and release, or like right after the film comes out, and I'm not that interested in those. Come Get Some with Lily Sullivan, that is a new interview. These are the Zoom interviews. It's 16 minutes. Mommy Deadite with Alyssa Sutherland, that is a new interview that's 17 minutes. A new interview, The Deadite's Daughter with Gabrielle Nichols, that's 15 minutes. The Levitating Dead with Anna Marie Thomas is a new interview, that is 11 minutes. Conjuring Deadites with Luke Pulte, new interview with prosthetic makeup designer, that is 13 minutes. Chopping Up Deadites with Brian Shaw, new interview with the editor, that's 14 minutes. These are substantial. There's a lot of stuff. This is one disc. There's a lot of stuff on here. Sonic Possessions with Peter Albrechtsen. That's where he gets into talking about how he created the sounds for the film. He was the sound designer. It's a new interview. That's 14 minutes. That's where he talks about how he was given the actual original sound recordings that were made for the first movie to use in this, to weave in there somewhere, which is kind of cool. Music to Swallow Your Soul with Stephen McKeon. That is a new interview with the composer. That's 14 minutes. The Sound of Evil Dead Rise. This is a 2023 interview for the Dolby Institute podcast, which I saw that with an arrow disc. It lists the extra, and then you hit it, and it lists a little description before you hit play. It says podcast, so I'm like, oh, this is going to be people in a studio. Is this going to be a still image? No, this is like these guys on stage, beautifully shot and lit, with director Lee Cronin and sound designer Peter Albrechtsen, conducted by Glenn Kaiser, director of the Dolby Institute. 51 minutes. So it's an hour interview with these guys about the making of the film, and moreover, leaning toward about the sound design elements. And that was recorded the night after the premiere, so you get to hear them talk a little bit about what it was like to see the initial audience reaction to that. We have Raising a New Evil Dead, behind-the-scenes featurette from 2023. That's 7 minutes. Ghost Train, which is a short film independent of this, that was written and directed by Lee Cronin in 2013, so 10 years before this film was made. 16 minutes behind the scenes, which were recorded by Lee Cronin on his phone. That's 4.5 minutes. Luckily, very little of that is vertical video. Trailer that's 2.5 minutes. TV spots, there are 6 of them that total 4 minutes. High quality image galleries, 2 of them with behind the scenes, 87 images and 46 storyboards. Really well done storyboards too. And if you get the commercial release, which is not what I get, it comes with glorious packaging and tuck-ins and booklets and all that stuff. So available now on 4K UHD from Arrow Video is Evil Dead Rise.